The last Templars' curse. The heavy clang of chains echoed through the cold stone chamber, dimly lit by flickering torchlight. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar, stood in the center of the room, wrists bound, his once pristine white tunic now stained with dirt and blood. Outside the prison walls, Paris slept, unaware of the storm brewing beneath its quiet streets. "I do not regret my loyalty to the Order," Jacques whispered, his voice steady despite the ache in his body. His gaze fixed on the heavy iron door, waiting for the final summons. He knew his fate was sealed, execution awaited him at dawn. But in the depths of his heart, he held on to one final weapon, a curse. The fall of the Templars. As the hours dragged on, Jacques thought back to the glory days of the Templars. The Order had been invincible once, guarding pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land, commanding vast wealth, and holding secrets so powerful they could unseat kings. He remembered the Holy Grail, the ancient texts hidden beneath the Temple Mount, and the Ark of the Covenant, relics the Templars had sworn to protect. Many dismissed these artifacts as myths, but Jacques knew better. He had seen them. "It's not the gold they feared," Jacques muttered to himself, "but the knowledge." The scrolls they found beneath Jerusalem contained wisdom older than any kingdom, secrets of alchemy, sacred geometry, and hidden codes that could unlock power beyond mortal comprehension. But none of that mattered now. King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V had conspired to destroy the Order, labeling them heretics to justify seizing their wealth. The door creaked open, and two guards entered, their faces shadowed under steel helmets. "It's time," one of them said gruffly, unlocking Jacques' chains and pulling him to his feet. The final stand. As they led him through the winding corridors of the prison, Jacques' mind raced. He had heard the rumors whispered among the guards. Philip was desperate to find the Templar treasure. Ships carrying gold had vanished without a trace, and no torture could force the remaining knights to reveal its location. Jacques smiled faintly, knowing that the treasure wasn't hidden in gold but in the minds of the Templars who had fled to distant lands. The courtyard was silent except for the crackling of the pyre. Flames licked hungrily at the dry wood, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding stone walls. A crowd had gathered, their faces somber under the pale glow of dawn. As Jacques was tied to the stake, he lifted his head, his eyes scanning the crowd until they rested on King Philip and the papal envoy standing on a raised platform. "You will burn," the priest intoned, holding up a crucifix, "for your sins against God and the Church." Jacques de Molay met the priest's gaze without flinching. "You condemn me, but it is you who will face judgment," he said, his voice rising above the crackling flames. "I curse you, King Philip, and you, Pope Clement. Before a year has passed, both of you will stand before God to answer for your crimes." The crowd murmured, and even the guards hesitated, uneasy at the conviction in his tone. The flames roared to life, enveloping Jacques in a pillar of heat and light, but his words hung in the air long after his body had turned to ash. The curse unfolds 3 months later. The winds howl through the towers of the Louvre Palace, rattling the windows of King Philip's chambers. He paced restlessly, unable to sleep. The curse had taken root in his mind, like a shadow lurking in the corners of his thoughts. Every night, he dreamed of Jacques de Molay's burning eyes and the finality of his words. A servant knocked softly on the door, breaking the king's reverie. "Your Majesty, a message from the papal envoy." Philip snatched the parchment and read it quickly, his heart sinking with every word. Pope Clement V was dead, struck down by a sudden illness that no healer could cure. The curse had claimed its first victim. Sweat beaded on Philip's forehead as he crumpled the letter in his fist. He had tried to dismiss Jacques' words as the delusions of a dying man, but now fear clawed at his chest. He staggered toward the window, gazing out over the city. Was the curse real? Would he be next? That night, Philip dreamed of fire. In his vision, he stood in a vast hall, surrounded by burning torches. The shadows on the walls danced like spectres, and at the end of the hall stood Jacques de Molay, his robes clean and unburnt, his gaze piercing. "You sought wealth but found damnation," Jacques said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You cannot escape what you have unleashed." Philip awoke with a scream, his heart racing. He called for his advisors, demanding they summon priests to perform exorcisms, but nothing could quell the growing sense of dread. Within months, his health deteriorated. Fever consumed him, and no medicine could break its hold. In April 1314, less than a year after Jacques de Molay's execution, King Philip IV died in agony. Legacy of the curse. Centuries later, beneath the stone walls of a forgotten abbey in Scotland, a young historian named Elise wiped the dust from an ancient chest. The wooden lid creaked as she opened it, revealing scrolls inscribed with symbols she had never seen before. Her pulse quickened as she carefully unrolled one of the scrolls. It contained a map marked with cryptic annotations, leading to what appeared to be a hidden Templar vault. Could this be it? She whispered, thinking of the legends of the lost Templar treasure. As she packed the scrolls into her bag, she glanced around the dimly lit chamber. The air felt thick, as if the spirits of the past were watching her every move. The curse of the Templars might have claimed its victims long ago, but their secrets still lingered, waiting to be discovered by those brave or foolish enough to seek them. Elise smiled to herself, unaware of the shadow that flickered behind her, disappearing into the darkness. The Templars' legacy was far from over.